הללויה, הללואל בקודשו, הללו ברכי עוזו, הללו בגבורותיו, הללו כרב גודלו, כל הנשמה.
Boker tov, everyone. We'll take one more moment. Guys, 100% ready. Start.
Warming up.
You're warming up. We will open our Sidurim on page 186. We welcome in the meantime those that are joining us in Zoom and in social media, in YouTube and in Facebook. And we welcome all those that are sitting here, physically sitting here, as we see them coming in from Torah study, and some even not from Torah study. Actually, those that are early don't come to study. 9 a.m. Let's get started with Shacharit and Shabbat on page 186. Thanks to you, ever-living sovereign, that you have restored my soul to me in mercy. How great is your trust, and as we said yesterday night, how great is to have your trust, to live up to be the best version of myself. How great is to know that we have your trust, so each of us can say, Bishbili nivra olam, the world, the entire world was created for me. We will now turn our Sidurim to page 194 for the blessing, for the well-functioning of our bodies. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who formed the human body with skill, creating the body's many pathways and openings. It is well known before your throne of glory that if one of them be wrongly opened or closed, it would be impossible to endure and stand before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals all flesh, working wondrously. Baruch atah Adonai, rofe kol basar, umafli la'asot.
Amen.
And as we think of our bodies, and we think of the attention that they require, the healing that sometimes they require, these perfect machines, we also understand that we are connected to each other and that there is a common denominator to all existence, and it's the spirit, the ruach of the universe, and that we are carriers of a piece of that common denominator. Our souls are our divine chips that make our existence possible. I invite you to turn your Sirim now to page 196 for the blessing for our souls.
נשמה שנתת בי, טהורה היא, אלוהי, נשמה שנתת בי, טהורה היא.
Sovereign of all souls. Praise are you, Adonai, in whose hand is every living soul and the breath of humankind. Baruch atah Adonai asher biyado nefesh kol chai veruach kol basar ish.
Amen.
We now turn our series 198 for the blessings for the daily miracles. I just want you to be aware that we are invited to think about our bodies and the functioning of our bodies as we dive in the blessings for our daily miracles, and also about our perceptions and identities. When we say pokeach ivrim, we literally mean, for example, that gives us the possibility to open our eyes every morning, but also to open our eyes to new knowledge, to new things, to become aware, to be alert. When we say matir asurim, yes, we mean to the ability of extending our bodies, who frees the captive. The rabbi thought about this idea that when you sleep like you contract your body, and in the morning you can extend your body. And so we literally extend our bodies, and you can extend your body a little bit. But we also think about releasing our thoughts and our ability to dream. Things that we can dream, but they don't even belong in the world of our thoughts. And we are grateful for having that opportunity. So I invite you to, as we are davening the blessings for the daily miracles, Birkot HaShachar, to try to find your narrative, to try to find your space, to try to find your words of gratitude.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has given the mind the ability to distinguish day from night.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who opens the eyes of the blind.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who frees the captive.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who lift up the fallen.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who stretches the earth over the waters.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who strengthens our steps.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who clothes the naked.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who gives strength to the weary.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who removes sleep from the eyes, slumber from the eyelids.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has created all human beings equal.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has made me
Give me free
free.
will. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has made me a Jew.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who girds Israel with strength.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who crowns Israel with splendor.
Amen.
We're on page 204 for the blessing for the study of Torah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. O Adonai our God, let the words of Torah be sweet in our mouths and the mouths of your people Israel, so that we, our descendants, and the descendants of all your people Israel may know you, by studying your Torah for its own sake. Blessed are you, Adonai, who teaches Torah to your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, המלמד תורה לעמו ישראל.
אמן. אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור היום, page 206. שאדם אוכל פירות איים בעולם הזה. והקרן קיימת לו לעולם הבא. ואילו אין כיבוד האף וגמילות חסדים. והשכמת בית המדרש, שחרית וערבית. והכנסת אורחים וביקור חולים. והכנסת כלה ולוויית המת. בעיון תפילה. בבת שלום בין אדם לחברו. בתלמוד תורה כנגד כולם. These are the things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study, morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all. We turn our Sidurim to page 212 for the blessing for the Psukei de Simra.
Baruch Shamar v'haya haolam, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemor, Baruch Hoseh v'Reshit, Baruch Omer v'Oseh.
Page 214, מזמור שיר ליום השבת.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, מזמור שיר ליום השבת, מזמור שיר ליום השבת.
Happy are those who dwell in your house. They forever praise you. Happy the people who have it so. Happy the people whose God is the source of being. We are at the top of page 215. Ashrei yoshbei beitecha.
Shekachano
אלוהי המלך, אלוהי המלך, אבלך שמך לעולם בהר.
בכל ימה וחכה, והללה שמך לעולם בהר.
גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, בגדולתו אין חקר.
דור לדור ישבח מעשיך, וגבורותיך יגידו.
עד על כבודותיך, בדברי נפלאותיך עשיך.
ועזוז נורותיך יאמרו, וגדולתך אספרנה.
וחרתו בחייבהו, בצדקתך ינננו.
חנון ורחום אדוני, ערך אפיים וגדול חסד.
טוב אדוני לכל, ברחמיו על כל מעשיו.
אדוני כל מעשיך, וחסידיך יברכוך.
כבוד מלכותך יאמרו, בגבולתך ידברו.
להודיע לבני האדם גבורותיו, וכבוד הדר מלכותו.
מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור.
סומך אדוני לכל הנופלים, וזוקף לכל הכפופים.
הנה כל אליך ישברו, ואתה נותן להם את אוכלם בעיתו.
פותח את ידיך, ומשביע לכל חי רצון.
צדיק אדוני בכל דרכיו, וחסיד בכל מעשיו.
קרוב אדוני לכל קוראיו, לכל אשר יקראו באמת.
רצון ידע ויעשה, בית שבתם ישמע ויושיעם.
שומר אדוני את כל אוהביו, ואת כל הרשעים ישמיד.
תהילת אדוני ידבר פיו, ויברך כל בשר שם קודשו, לעולם בארץ.
ואנחנו נברך יה, מעתה ועד עולם, הללויה.
Page 218, Psalm 150. כל חי, תברך את שמך, אדוני אלוהינו. ברוח כל בשר, תפאר ותתרומן זכרך מלכנו תמיד, מן העולם ועד עולם, אתה אל, ואין לנו מלך אלא אתה. God of the first and the last, God of all creatures, Master of all generations, who is praised in a multitude of praises, who guides the world with abundant loving kindness, and all creatures with mercy. Adonai neither slumbers nor sleeps. God awakens the sleeping, arouses those who slumber, gives speech to the mute, and God loosens the bonds of captives. God supports the fallen, and strengthens those who are bent over. You alone do we acknowledge. We're on page 220, even if our mouths are full of song as the sea, and our tongues full of joy in countless waves, we could never find the words to express the depths of our gratitude. Ilufinu male shira kayam.
Ilufinu male shira kayam, o leshonenu rina, ve'yadenu frosot, k'nishre שמיים ורגלינו קלות כילות. חילופינו מלא שיר הקיים ולשוננו רינה וידינו פרוסות כנשרי שמיים ורגלינו קלות כילות. אין אנחנו מספיקים להודות לך ולברך את שמך מלכנו. אין אנחנו מספיקים להודות לך ולברך את שמך מלך מלכי המלכים, מלך מלכי המלכים, מלך מלכי המלכים. מלא שיר הקיים ולשוננו רינה וידינו פרוסות כנשרי שמיים ורגלינו קלות כידינו. מלא שיר הקיים ולשוננו רינה וידינו פרוסות כנשרי שמיים ורגלינו קלות כילות.
רגלינו וידינו פרוסות כנשרי שמיים. Our hands are open like eagles in the sky. It's a great opportunity to think about wingspan, our wingspan, the things that we can embrace when we open our hands, and how often we open our hands in order to embrace. Every heart will revere you, and every thought will sing to your name. Let all my bones exclaim, who is like you, Adonai? Bless Adonai, O my soul, and let my inner being praise your holy name. We're on page 222 for the end of Nishmat Kol Chai and the blessing that concludes the Psukei de Simra.
שוכן עד מרום וקדוש שמו וכתוב רננו צדיקים באדוני לישרים נבע תהילה בפי ישרים תתעלה ובדברי צדיקים תתברך ובלשון חסידים תתרומם ובקרב קדושים תתקדש ובמקלות ריבות עמך בית ישראל ברינה יתפאר שמך מלכנו בכל דור ודור ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו האל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים ובארץ כי לך נאה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו שושבך הלב וזמרה עוז ממשלה נצח גדולה גבורה תהילה ותפארת קדושה ומלכות ברכות והודאות מעתה ועד עולם ברוך אתה אדוני אל מלך גדול בתשבחות אל ההודאות אדון הנפלאות הבוחר בשירי זמרה מלכי העולמים יתגדל ויתקדש מרבה בלמד יברך חירותי ימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומייכון ובחייתך בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו יהי שמי רבה מבורך
eyes as we turn our Sidurim to page 226 for Marchum, the blessing that opens the gate toward the Shema. We're on page 228. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam יוצר אור ובורא חושך עושה שלום ובורא את הכל המאיר לארץ ולהרים עליה ברחמים המאיר לארץ ולהרים עליה ברחמים ובטובו מחדש לכל יום תמיד מעשה בראשית מה רבו מסך אדוני כולם בחוכמה עשית מלוא הארץ קניינך Adonai Eloheinu, חמלה גדולה ויתרה, חמלת עלינו. How deeply you have loved us, Adonai our God, gracing us with surpassing compassion, surpassing compassion. בעינינו בתורתך, בדבק ליבנו במצוותיך. Lighten our eyes with your Torah. Focus our minds on your mitzvot. Unite our hearts in love and reverence for your name. Gather us in peace from the four corners of the earth and lead us upright to our land. For you, O God, work wonders. You chose us. Truly, you drew us near to your great name, that we might acknowledge you, declaring you one in love. Baruch atah Adonai, הבוחר בעמו ישראל, באהבה. Praised be you, Adonai, who which says your people Israel in love. We're on page 232.
Shema,
Shema Israel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Please join me on 234 for chanting of Haftah. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו דלתות עפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך We continue in English, middle of page 236. Adonai said to Moses as follows, "Speak to the Israelite people and instruct them to make for themselves fringes on the corners of their garments throughout the ages. Let them attach a cord of blue to the fringe at each corner. That shall be your fringe. Look at it and recall all the commandments of Adonai and observe them, so you do not follow your heart and eyes in your lustful urge. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת
אדוני אלוהיכם אמת אמת ויציב בהו בחביב בנורא בדיר בטוב ביפה דבר עשה לנו לעולם בעת אמת אלוהי עולם מלכנו צור יעקב מגן אישנו לדור בדור הוא קיים שמו קיים בכיסאו נחום ומלכותו ואמונתו לעד קיימת. God ever humbles the proud, raises the lowly, frees the imprisoned, redeems the afflicted, helps the oppressed, answering our people when we cry out. Praise to God Most High, blessed is God, and deserving of blessing. In great joy, Moshe, Miriam, and all Israel responded with song to you, all of them proclaiming, who is like you, O God? Mi chamocha ve'elim Adonai. We're on page 240.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה ולב
Yai da dai 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 dai, yalai dai dai, yada dai 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 dai, yai da dai 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 dai, yalai da dai 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 dai. Return for Yerushalayim, for Tfilat Amidah. We're on page 242. Adonai, Sefatai Tiftach, Ufi Agit Tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה.
אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה מתים אתה, רב להושיע מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים, צומח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני יפת, מי כמוך בגבורות ומדום מלך, מלך מימית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, למען אתה לחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה המתים.
מקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה זה ואמר, קדוש קדוש קדוש, אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ.
שבת קודשך וניחו בישראל בקודשך. חטא אדוני בקודשך שמה. רצון אלוהינו מלך אצלנו, תפילתם בבת תקבל בתהילה רצון תמיד עבודת עמך. מודים על החלש אדוני אלוהינו אלוהינו במתין. על כל המידע לכם. שים שלום טובה וברכה, חן בחסד וברחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל עמך. רצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני, צורי וגואלי. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. We're at the bottom of page 260.
Shalom bimrolav, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru
Start with the Torah service, Seder Kriyat HaTorah.
אין כמוך ואלוהים אדוני, ואין כמעשיך, מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. Adonai Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadlul Adonai iti, Uneromema Shemo Yachdav. Lecha Adonai, Agdula v'Hagvura, v'Hatiferet v'Hanetzach v'Ha'od.
Forgot the mask.
כי כה בשמיים ובארץ, לך אדוני הממלכה. ונתנשא לכל ראש, רוממו, 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 אדוני אלוהינו, וישתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו, 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 אדוני אלוהינו, וישתחוו להר קודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו, כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Who knows what Torah portion we are reading this week? Shlach Lecha, Shlach. You can go by the two names. Now, just to do a quick gathering, who knows what are the topics in this Torah portion? The spies, that are the main motif. We'll talk about the spies. Is there any other thing that happens in this Torah portion? So a big chunk of the liturgy that we sing in the service of Kol Nidrei is actually a part of this Torah portion. Vayomer Adonai Salachti Kidbarecha, right? And God will say, I will forgive according to your will, and we have some of the attributes of mercy. What else? There's another mitzvah, there's an important mitzvah in this Torah portion, something about challah. Mitzvah regarding challah, afrashat challah, to take off a piece from the challah that you are making for the sake of what? What? Heaven, sacrifice, close enough. The recognition that we set things apart. This idea of separating things for tzedakah, separating things for the tithe, separating things 6 days from the week, from the seventh one. The idea of distinction comes almost in every single thing we do. Because otherwise, you have like the same sound in every single thing you do. If you don't have some contrast, if you don't have some structure, everything becomes the same. And then at some point, we could lose the will, we could lose the meaning behind what we are trying to do, what we are trying to achieve. So these actions help us to be more intentional. Anything else? Tzitzit. We are right. The mitzvah of tzitzit appears in this Torah portion. And we say leman tizkeru, you shall remember, right? Like exactly in the same context. There is an idea that when you just go about in your life, if you don't create physical reminders, tangible reminders for the values and for the ideas that you want to keep in your heart, but not just in your heart, also in your actions, you're likely going to forget. And therefore, when we return the Torah to the ark, we put the tzitzit. Therefore, we wear the tzitzit, some of us every morning, some of us when we pray, to remind ourselves that there are values that we want to have in our minds, in our hearts, in our actions as we try to navigate our lives. But I actually wanted to talk about the spies. Now, a bit cliche, like once again, like the spies. You have heard this story probably, I don't know, 1,000 times? Say yes, give me some. But there's something in this story that I found particularly striking, and I was having a conversation with my dear friend, Rabbi Rick Steinberg, yesterday. We were talking about the Torah portion. Look at that. Two rabbis talk about Torah. And I was sharing with him something that I wanted to share, and he said, did you look at how Rashi interprets the pasuk, the verse of the land of milk and honey? And I didn't. And I actually looked, and it was very interesting to see what Rashi says about the first part of the report of the spies. Now, let me give you some context for this. They're getting close to the land of Israel. The Israelites are getting close to the land of Israel. Now, you know that we were 40 years in the desert. This is just the beginning of the journey. And at this point, we learn that they are close. They are close enough for the spies to go and over 40 days take a look at the land and try to explore what's happening there. And because they are getting close, God tells Moshe to send some people to explore the field. And they send 12 representatives, one for each tribe. And when they come back, they report back what they saw. And certainly, they saw a series of things and challenges that they will need to face eventually when they go into the land. And they start by saying, in Numbers 17, number 13, sorry. They told him and said, we came to the land to which you sent us, and it is flowing with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. So the report of the spies, we know that 10 spies will give a very negative report. The report starts with something very positive. And here's what Rashi says. Rashi says, we came into the land that is flowing with milk and honey, and then he says, they stated this because no fabricated statement in which one does not say at least some true words at the beginning can at the end be maintained. So what is Rashi trying to say? Rashi is trying to say that the spies start by saying something true. Truth to be told, the land is a land of milk and honey. Now that we say that, I want to say other things. And what he's trying to say is that after saying this truth, all the rest are lies. Now, we know that not all the rest are lies, and also that the land is not exactly a land of milk and honey. Like, And I know that when I, for example, think about the modern state of Israel, from my perspective, it is a land of milk and honey, right? So for me, this metaphor is very true. But what's clearly happening is that they are using a metaphor. A metaphor. The idea of the land of milk and honey is a metaphor. So, and as a metaphor, it's true. Or wishful thinking, or the land of possibility, as you could say. Now, we also know that most of the report is similar. The 12 spies that thought that it was possible to conquer the land, they actually share a very similar report to the other 10. So what's the deal? What's happening here? There's one thing that is slightly different. In verse 29, it's the book of Numbers, chapter 13, the Amalekites dwell in the southland, while the Hittites, the Jebusites, and the Amorites dwell in the mountainous region. The Canaanites dwell on the coast and alongside the Jordan. There's a problem with this statement. The problem with this statement is that the Amalekites weren't there, inside the land. Amalekites were in the way. And here's what Rashi says. The Amalekites abide in the land. And this is how Rashi explains this. Because they had already been burned by Amalek. You remember what happens as soon as the Israelites leave Egypt? They cross the Red Sea and they are attacked by their back by the Amalekites. Amalek attacked them. So, what's the meaning of Amalek in the identity of the Israelites or in Jewish tradition? What? Enemy, evil. It's trauma. Amalek is PTSD for these people. These people are in absolute trauma from Amalek. In the moment in which they felt the most glorious, they were attacked, surprised, and killed, many of them, by Amalek. Amalek is the memory of something very traumatic. They barely can remember the fact that the sea was open for them, and what they can remember is the very negative experience they had with Amalek. And now the spies are saying, Amalek is there. Amalek is there. And now the question is what? Why are the spies saying this? And Rashi says, well, the spies are trying to instill fear. And this is, for me, very interesting. I want to explain why. The spies had experience, and they were afraid. They were afraid. Now they are coming back to Moses, and they are not just reporting their experience. They are trying to make their emotions and their feelings out of that experience legitimate in the eyes of the rest of the community. They are not sharing just the facts of what they saw. They are adding the notion of trauma and what is traumatic to the rest of the community in order to win an argument. What's the argument that will come? The argument that will come a minute later is we should go back. We should go back to Egypt. And in order to be able to make that argument, they need to tap into something that everybody understands. Now, is the fact that they have a negative experience or the fact that they are afraid such a big problem? I wouldn't like to think that Torah is trying to tell people when you are scared, when you experience something that looks terrible to you, don't share it. Change the facts. Or don't say that this for you was scary. The problem is that there is a twist here. There is a lie. The Amalekites are not there. It is like, I sometimes say when someone tells me, or tells someone in the community, people are saying. Yeah? Who are these people that are saying? Who is this army of your imaginary friends? Sometimes, in order to make a point across, we exaggerate. We exaggerate what's happening in order to convince others. People are saying, the Amalekites are there. The problem with that is that the narrative can go out of control. Now, if you would have the courage and the humility to say, this is what I saw, and this is how I felt, I think that that's valid. That's very legit. Now, if in order to share that experience, in order to say, this is what I saw, and this is how I felt, you need to add a lie, well, there is something wrong. And this gets so wrong, that this narrative goes into the people and creates chaos, a total chaos. And the voice goes out, and they all cry. What? They want to go back, and they start saying, we need to go back. We're not going to be able to make it. But there were real challenges in Eretz Canaan, in the land of Israel. But they are not talking about the real challenges anymore. They're just talking about their fear and a narrative that was created by a lie. And what's the end of the deal? The end is that they don't make it into the promised land. And I don't see that as a punishment. I see that as a realization. At some point, they convince God. And God says, these people cannot make it into the next chapter. They just can't be there. We're going to protect them. We will take care of them. We're not going to let them be ever again slaves. We're not going to send them back to Egypt. But they are not making it into the next chapter. They don't have the ability. They don't have the ability. There's a say in Hebrew, Al tebalbel oti im uvdot. Don't confuse me with the facts. Because they cannot be led by facts. The fact that the waters opened for them, the fact that they were getting manna, the fact that they were at Sinai, all these incredible things that happened to them, they weren't enough for them to change their state of mind. We call it in the Torah understanding the God's presence or the kindness of God, but that's not the real story. The real story is that these people, that's the metaphor. But the story is that they couldn't change their mindset. They just couldn't. And what's happening in this Torah portion is that God says, they can't. Something very symbolic that happens in that moment is that Yeshua and Caleb, they torn their garments. The tearing of the garments is a symbol of what? Of mourning. So they understand that something is going to die there. And what's dying is the enterprise of these people entering the promised land. The children will. But they won't be able to enter the promised land. So they will remain not as slaves, but not as those that will fulfill the promise of entering the promised land. And I just want to say that there's a huge message, in my opinion, in this Torah portion, and it has to do with us, with how we express ourselves, how we express our emotions, how we share our experiences, how we remain true to those experiences and say, this is what I saw, and this is what happened to me. How we, when we come to share something that has happened to us, we come on our own behalf without the army of imaginary friends. And how also when we hear narratives that are there in order to scare us, we filter them. Now, that's how politics are led today, right? Like politicians, they work on scaring us. That's what they do all the time, in both sides of the political map. I see Democrats and Republicans doing this. Yeah, the other side. No, your side does that. Like the Republican side and the Democrat side and the right in Israel and the left in Israel. They're all, the left says that the right is stealing the democracy. The right says that the left will sell the country. Like, and those are exaggerations and lies in order to scare the public. And I wonder if we could just bring our arguments back to be just the legitimate expression of how we see things, what we believe are the facts, and how we feel about them. Let's get started with the reading of Parashat Shlach Lecha. We'll move the guitar to the other side so it's more secure. They're here. Wait a second, guy.
When you come up to use this microphone, you don't need to touch any buttons. I promise it's on.
Shlach Lecha begins on page 1107. Nice numbers, 11 and 7. There we go. All right. Yam Tu, Moshe Yerachmel ben Abraham, Aliyah Rashon, Mitchell Goldberg, and reading will be Mark Filowitz.
As soon as I find it, we aren't starting at the beginning. Right here.
Baruch et Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Mevarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'notan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Ale shemot hanashim asher shalach Moshe latur et haaretz vayikra Moshe leHoshea bin Nun Yehoshua vayishlach otam Moshe latur et eretz Canaan vayomer alechem elu zeh b'negev V'yalitam et hachar, uritem et haaretz mahiv, v'yet ha'am, v'yoshev elecha echazak, hu harafeh, hama'at hu imrav.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah temet v'chayei olam notah b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Yasher Koach. Yam tu, Fagelbat, Mordechai, Venechama, Aliyah Sheni, Phyllis Newman is joining us from out in Zoomland in Florida there. And her reading will be her daughter, Gabrielle Newman.
Baruch hu et Adonai Amvorach.
Baruch Adonai Mevarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Amvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Uma haaretz asher hu yoshev hatovahiv imra. Uma haarim asher hu yoshev behaneh habemachanim im b'mivtzarim. Uma haaretz Hashem Hashmena hu imrazat hayesh ba'etz im ayin v'hitchazaktem ulekachtem miperi haaretz v'hayamim yemei Bichure
Anavim.
Anavim Vaya alu Vayitru et haaretz Mimid Bartziv Tzin Ad Rechov
Lebo Chamat. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tofenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
And while Gabriela and her mother are standing, we wish to Gabrielle Nesiat Tova. She's flying tonight to Florida to see her mother after 19 months. So we wish two of them a wonderful gathering, and to Gabrielle Nesiat Tova and an easy flight.
Toda.
Thank you.
Amen. Yam tu, Benjamin Ganesha ben Shmarehu, Leah Shlishi, Burton Silver, and reading will be Nitza Hennig.
Baruch Adonai Mevarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Li'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
ויעלו בנגב, ויבוא עד חברון, ושם אחימן, ששי ותלמי, ילידי הענק, וחברון 7 שנים נבנתה לפני צורן מצרים. ויבואו עד נחל אשכול, ויכרתו משם זמורה, ואשכול ענבים 1, וישאוהו במות בשניים, ומן הרימונים ומן התאנים. למקום ההוא קרא נחל אשכול, על אודות האשכול אשר כתוב משם בני ישראל.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu, Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Yasher Koach. Yam Tu, Tzipora Yala, Bat Michal Vadina, Maftir, Freddie Joe Brushke, and her daughter Rami, who will be bat mitzvah next
And
week.
Freddie's taking with her Romy that's coming up to the Torah next week. And they're going to do the blessing over the reading of Parashat Atzitzit, of the portion of the fringes in the Torah that reminds us of the mitzvot. Symbolically, she's coming up to the Torah, and we'll be wearing a talit for the first time next week.
And reading them after this week will be Daphna Guterman.
Baruch
Baruch
Adonai
Adonai
Mevorach Leolam
Mevorach
Va'ed.
Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamrach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת אליהם, ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם, ונתנו על ציצית הכנף פתיל תכלת, והיה להם לציצית וראיתם אותו, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריהם, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים.
אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
Acknowledge all those that came up to the Torah in honor of Shabbat, the Torah, and our congregation. May you all be blessed by the Holy One. May you find success in your endeavors together with all Israel, and let us say,
Amen.
we also take a moment to acknowledge people that are dealing with illness. If you have a name that you like to share in the comments on Zoom, Facebook, or YouTube, we invite you to do so now. And if you're here and you like to share the name of someone who you are praying for his or her recovery, please do so. ישברך אבותינו ואמותינו, אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, שרה רבקה, רחל ולאה. ויברך את החולים. He will bless all those that were mentioned here and written in the comments in social media. May the blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send to all of them a complete renewal of body and spirit. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Please rise for Agva and Glila.
וזאת התורה אשר עשה משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. השלושה דברים, השלושה דברים, שלושה דברים העולם עובד. השלושה דברים, השלושה דברים, שלושה דברים העולם עומד. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הגמילות חסדים. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הגמילות חסדים. עץ חיימי למה חסיקים בה בתומכיה מאושר דרכיה דרכנו עולם וכל נתיבותיה. שלום השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה חדש ימינו כקדם בהשבותה אל לבביך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בהשבותה אל לבביך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. See that? We'll now take a moment as we approach the end of our service to say Mourner's Kaddish. We invite you, if you are during the first 7 days of mourning, Shiva, if you are during the first 30 days of mourning, Shloshim. Thank you. If you are during the cycle of the first year of mourning, and if you have a yortzeit this week, to share the names of your beloved ones. We also invite all those in Facebook and YouTube to share their names. And if you are in Zoom and you are remembering someone this week, please do share their names with us. Now you can support our fellows by sitting or standing, joining us with your voices and your hearts for Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
בעלמא דברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי. בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו,
Amen.
יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמיה,
ברח.
יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו,
Amen.
יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
Amen. May the memories of your dear ones be a blessing. Sichram Baruch, you may be seated. You know, I want to share a thought before we conclude services. I hear that the state of California is making a huge effort to get more people vaccinated, and so is doing the federal government. And I'm happy that that's happening. I want to remind all of us where we were a year ago, or a year and 3 months ago. Like the desert feels more safe and compelling than any of our cities in the world. And people keep dying from COVID. Like, I keep hearing about people that are dying from COVID. And in the context of the vaccination, I heard 3 times this week the use of the claim, my body, my choice, for people that are deciding not to get vaccinated or that are anti-vaccine. It's not exactly the same. I just want to say that no, like that's wrong. And I want to explain why, in my opinion, it's wrong. And I wanted to provide some idea for you to carry. And if you have the opportunity to engage, you might have this in mind. Taking a vaccine right now, in a time in which many people cannot get the vaccine, is the moral act in order to protect those in our society that don't have the ability to be vaccinated because they are immunocompromised or because they are children. And using this phrase, my body, my choice, and tap into how governments have controlled women and the body of women for years is absolutely unfair, because it taps in a principle that is the principle of autodetermination and legitimate governance. When it's just your body, the one that is affected, it should be your choice. It should be your choice. You should have the freedom when it is your body. But when you are talking about a virus, it's not just your body. It's like the story of the one that decided to make a hole in his own seat, just on his own seat in the boat, but then kill everyone else. And I think that when we say in the context of COVID, my body, my choice, you are killing 2 things. One is you are converting something that is about community and herd immunity into something that is personal. It's not just personal. And of course that there are individuals that have limitations. We're talking about the well-being of our society, and we care about the well-being of our society and community. But also, you are diminishing the right fight that we still have in the United States and in many other countries for women to be in control of their bodies. So you are doing like 2 things that are wrong. So I just want to use this bima once again to say that what I believe is the ethical choice to make during these days is to get a vaccine if you can, and to take care of all those that need to be safe in our society. And I hope that all those that can do it. And with that said, and in one more thing, like miracles in our tradition, they don't come from heaven. Miracles in our tradition happen in partnership between God, nature, and our wisdom. So I would say that taking the vaccine, creating the vaccine and taking the vaccine is our share. So let's make sure that we publicize this miracle and we make sure that people can once again walk in the streets of our cities and get in airplanes and meet with their families and be present for their families when they want to be present. And their B'nai Mitzvah, or in moments that are more difficult, by just trying to bring our share and return our society to safety. We'll conclude our service on page 631, I think, 32. I was close. With the words of Ein Adir, Mi Piel. Mi Piel, Mi Piel, Yevorach Kol Israel. Mi Piel, Yevorach Kol Israel.
Ein Adir Kadonai, ve'ein Baruch keven Ameram, ein Gedolah kaTorah, ve'ein Doshaneha keYisrael. Mi Piel, Yevorach Kol Israel. Mi Piel, Yevorach Kol Israel.
Ein Adur Kadonai, Ben Bahatik Ben Abraham, En Tzaka kaTorah, Ben Chachamea keYisrael. Mi Piel, Yevorach Kol Israel. Mi Piel, Yevorach Kol Israel.
Ein Dar Kadonai, ve'ein Yachid keven Ameram, ein Kavira kaTorah, ve'ein Lataneha keYisrael. Mi Piel, Yevorach Kol Israel. Mi Piel, Yevorach Kol Israel.
En Podek Adonai, En Tzadik keben Abraham, En Kedoshah kaTorah, Ben Tomcheya keYisrael. Mi Piel, Yevorach Kol Israel. Mi Piel, Yevorach Kol Israel. Adonai vos, amor ייתן, Adonai יברך את עמיו בשלום. Shabbat Shalom everywhere. Mi Piel, Yevorach Kol Israel. Mi Piel, Yevorach Kol Israel.
All right, Zoomers and everybody, we're gonna fade to black and then be right back.
Shabbos, Shabbos.
So, Zoomers, stay in the room if you want to have a chat. I promise.